Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, which is all about the new exciting features that we released in our new release yesterday. I am a couple of minutes early, so I am just going to wait for the rest of the subscribers to join. In the meantime, I would just like to point out that if you do have any questions, please ask the questions in the public chat to the right-hand side of the screen. That is the chat that I have open, and I will leave all of the questions to be answered at the end of my showcase. If your screen is a little bit blurry and you are using a web browser that is not Chrome, I would also advise you to move over to your Chrome browser, as I have had feedback from our other hoteliers that the Chrome browser doesn't have the blurry visual image that Safari or Firefox has. Alrighty, so I am going to head right into the new webinar, as I think more or less everybody has joined already. And for those who join at a later stage, you will always be welcome to view the webinar at your own pace, as a recording will be sent to you via email. So what I am going to get started on with our new features is the multi-login tool, which we now have, which is very exciting. Let me just open up on our normal calendar page. So over here in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, where you would normally access all of your settings, we can go over and click on that. Then, as you would normally when you create multiple logins for your employees, you would click on your logins button. Now, already we can see that this looks quite different from how it previously looked. For example, there is now a login log where you can view the history of who logged in, what time they logged in, etc. If you would like to add a new login, you can click on Add Login at the top right-hand side. And now you can see that this entire login screen looks a little bit different. We have changed the field quite a bit. So you would add in the initials. I am going to add in one for our support. Oh, sorry, no, I should be putting my name here. Here we go, and my surname. Then the email address. Remember that the email address does need to be a unique email address for that specific employee who's logging in, as it is the one that they will always be using to log in. So it's kind of like a username for them in a sense, and also a confirmation of the creation of the account, as well as confirmation of the password will be sent to that email address. So then you can also select language, which we will keep on English. And then you can select what kind of rights you would like to give the employee. So you can select between admin and hotel team. For those who are not familiar with the difference between the two, the hotel team provides basic access to the PMS, meaning that the employee who's logged in with hotel team access will only be able to view the calendar. They'll be able to add reservations, make changes to reservations, view reservations, etc., as well as charge reservations and add payments. But they won't have access to changing rate types, changing your rates and availability. They won't have access to your settings and so forth. The admin access is the access that will have access to the PMS as well as to your settings, and also to be able to make changes to rates and availability. So for the moment, let's keep it on hotel team access. We have now also introduced a new feature to the multi-login tool, which is for accounts, for hoteliers who have multiple accounts with RoomRaccoon that are linked. They are now able to select and choose which other accounts they would like this particular employee to have access to. So over here, we can select that we want it for this account as well as for the other account. So we have that selected over there. We also now have the option to have an image loaded, which is quite exciting. So you can have a photo of the employee loaded over here. To the right hand side where it says current image, it will show which image is loaded. And eventually what we are going to do is RoomRaccoon is going to have actual avatars. So when that employee logs in, then they will be able to see their own avatar as well. Of course, this is not available at the moment, but it is something we are working towards. Then something that is very new and exciting is you can now also choose your own unique password. Finally, you don't have to try and remember that horrible jumbled letters, numbers, and punctuation marks to log in. You can actually have your own unique password. Once you have created, filled in all of the necessary fields, you can click on save. And then there we go. It will confirm that the login was created and also that the password has been sent again to this email address. So now you will also see that there are a couple of new actions on the side. Usually it was just the send new password or delete, but we now also have an edit option. So for whatever reason, let's say that you decide that you no longer want this person to have access to a particular account, you can very easily take that away so that they no longer have access to it. Or you can also view the timeline of the changes that this hotelier or employee has made throughout their login history in RoomRaccoon. So that is the basics of the multi-login. Again, if you do have any questions about it or if there's anything you'd like to know, please do send it in the public chat to the right-hand side of the screen. I am now going to move on to a different feature, which is also a new one. It is called Archive Rooms. So this is particularly useful for if you have rooms that you are going to renovate and you want to keep your calendar neat and clean. So in other words, we're going to use room 204 as an example for this. So let's say room 204 is undergoing massive renovations and it cannot be booked for the moment. So really there's no need for it to be here. You don't want it to be a gray room because it just clutters up the calendar, or people might put things into there that they shouldn't put into there. What can now be done is you can phone or email your customer success agents at RoomRaccoon and ask them to archive this room for you. And what that does is it will completely have that room removed from your calendar, but it will still keep the history of the reservations that have been made in that room in your account. So you will still be able to search for reservations from the past or reservations that are for the future. So to archive this room, as an example, I'm going to show you, we're going to go to your room types, click on rooms. Again, this is something that only a customer success employee at RoomRaccoon will be able to do. So then we click on save for room 204. And if we go back to rooms, you'll see room 204 has also now gone to a gray color along with the other rooms which have been archived. And if we go back to the calendar now, you will notice that room 204 is no longer visible. And then again, once you would like to make it visible again, or when you'd like to unarchive it, you can very easily just ask the customer success team to unarchive the room for you, which they will be able to do in the settings, and reselect the rate type. And now if we head back to your calendar, you will see that room 204 once again is in the room. And I will mention again that this does not affect any bookings that are in room 204, even when you archive it. The reservations are still searchable and they do still exist in your RoomRaccoon backend. So that is touching on the archived rooms. Next is another new little feature that we have introduced, which we refer to as the What's New icon. And that is the cute little bell icon that we have on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So whenever a new update or a new release is done, this little bell will ring left and right, and it will also have a little red dot to indicate that there is something new. You are also, even when it isn't ringing, able to click on it and it will give you an overview of the latest release, which we can see over here now, the What's New button, the archive rooms, which we've already spoken about, employee logins, which we've already covered, and then managed property details, which is what I'm going to cover a little bit later on. You can also view previous releases and what changes were made in or features were added in those releases. Then we have got improvements or suggestions on how you can improve your RoomRaccoon account. If we click on the arrows, it will continue to give more ideas. And if you click on Improve Now, it will refer you to an article that is specifically for that feature, and that will explain to you exactly how to implement that feature correctly. I'm just having another quick look to see if there are any questions, and I see that there still aren't any. So I am going to continue with the next new feature that we've got, which is not really a new feature, but rather quite a big change that we have made in the room types, which is the key icon at the top left-hand side of the screen. So some of you who have already used this since our new release yesterday afternoon might have already noticed the changes that have been made. But for those of you who haven't, you might notice now that we have changed what was previously called room types over here at the top to property details, because each property is different, and it could be a self-catering apartment, it could be a house. So we have decided to steer away from room types and rather refer to it as property details. Below that, you still have your what we used to refer to as room types, which are still clickable as per usual. So for this example, I'm going to click on Superior Suite. And then it will open up this page, which will definitely look a lot different from the last time you have viewed it, if you haven't viewed it before yesterday afternoon. So now you'll notice that we have added everything into specific categories on the left-hand side of the screen. So you've got your basic information, which is the property details. That is where you would give it its room type name as well as the description. Then below that, we've got photos. And if we click on the photos, then over here is where you will be able to add the photos as you usually would. We have once again increased the maximum amount of photos that we can add per room type. So for all of our original raccooners, they would remember that at a stage we could only do 4 images per room type. Recently, we moved up to 10 images per room type. And once again, now we have moved up to 25 images per room type. And this goes for all of your room types, of course. You can very easily add them just by clicking on Browse Files or by dragging and dropping the images into this box at the top. Then we've got the advanced information, which is all of your add-ons. So over here, you can select which add-ons you want applicable for this specific room type. Below that, you've got amenities. If you've got your upsell feature activated, then you will have an option for the upsell. If you don't have it activated, it will just have a little lock icon. And then finally, the rate types to indicate which rate types are selected or are activated for that specific room type. You'll notice that some of them are checked and we've got one that isn't. The ones that are checked mean that it's the ones that have information filled in or the ones that are completed, and then ones that haven't been completed or that haven't had any information added to it will remain without a tick, such as the amenities one over here. Perfect. So let's have another look. I still do not see any questions. So that is either a really good thing because it means that I am doing a really good job at explaining these new features to you, or it means that nobody can hear me, which I hope is not the case. I would hope that somebody would have mentioned that to me before. So I am now going to move on to our last updated feature. Thank you, Daniel, for telling me that you can hear me. I appreciate that. So a new thing that we've introduced is we have limited the amount of changes that can be made on reservations that are from OTAs. And the main reason we have done this is because let's say you have made let's say you get a booking from booking.com and then the guest phones you and they ask you to extend the booking. So you change the dates or you add a couple of add-ons to that booking. And then the hotelier or the guest, the guest goes onto booking.com and they make another change on booking.com. Let's say they make a change to their arrival time. When they make that change, Booking.com resends the reservation to us. And when they resend this reservation to us, it overrides any manual changes you have made. So that means that the booking would go back to its original stay dates. It will not have the dates that you've changed it to when the guest phoned you. And it will not have any of the add-ons that you have added. Or if you upgraded it to a specific room type, it will then go back to the room type that it was at. So this can obviously result in unhappy guests, or it can mess around with your calendar a little bit when this happens. So at the moment, you'll notice when you do receive a booking from booking.com, it's going to be a little bit trickier to make certain changes to it, which might seem a little bit frustrating for you in the beginning, but I do promise you that we do this to the benefit of the hotelier. So what will happen is if we open up a reservation, now in a usual reservation where you've got your arrival and departure dates, as we've got over here, you will have an extra option if this is from a hotel, if it's from an OTA. So let's say if it's from booking.com, for example, there will be an extend stay option over here that you can click on if you want to make changes to the dates or anything like that. You will still be able to drag and drop the room to a new room type, but the only then that's going to happen is it's first going to send up a warning pop-up to let you know that if a change does happen on booking.com, and they resend the booking to us, then that upgrade information might be lost. So you'll have to redo that change if necessary. So yeah, that is basically all that I have to say about the limited options for the OTA. If anything about that isn't clear, we do also have an article written about it for you, or feel free to send me an email, give us a call to talk about it. Or again, you can just click on our little What's New bell, and you can scroll down to the part where we talk about the restricted changes in the OTA bookings. You'll notice that some of the words over here are hyperlinked, so they're in a different color, and that means that they are clickable because they are attached to an article. So if you would like to see the article for anything that is written over here, please feel free to click on Archive Rooms. As an example, so just click on the hyperlinked word to view the article. One last thing that I want to touch on is the credit card vault. So the credit card vault is not something that is applicable to our South African hoteliers. It is more applicable to our UK and European hoteliers who make use of our Raccoon Pay feature. So for anybody who does not use Raccoon Pay as a feature, or who do not have any kind of payment service provider in place, like Stripe, for example, you will be able to activate what we call the credit card vault, which is to ensure that your credit card details are stored safely and securely. This does come at an additional cost a month, depending on how many rooms your property has. Again, this is only for the European and the UK hoteliers. For our South African hoteliers, we do not have Raccoon Pay here. And so, of course, your credit card details will get stored as per usual, even if you're not integrated with a payment service provider. I do see a question from Johan, who is saying that he doesn't see that it shows, the address option shows for some properties and not for others. So I will have a look into that right now after this webinar, and hopefully have it sorted out as soon as possible for you. So if there aren't any other questions, that is it from me for this webinar. Again, if you think of any questions later on, or if something was not clear to you and none of the articles on the What's New section help, feel free to send us an email at support@roomraccoon.com, or you are more than welcome to give me a call at 021 300 3580, and I will happily help you with anything that you need. Again, for those who joined the webinar a little bit later on, you will receive a link to rewatch the webinar once it has recorded and saved, and then you can watch it at your own leisure. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that this was useful for you. If you do have any tips on how I can improve my webinars, please let me know. If you have any suggestions for webinars that you would like me to do, you are also more than welcome to let me know, and I will put it in our schedule.